Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 48 of That Scale RC Show. This is Jeremy and I am here with
Adam
and Travis.
Along with, there you go.
See, you messed it up.
Well, because it was kind of weird because normally we always do the whatchamacallit, so do you want to redo it?
No, I like this actually because people have kind of grown to expect this from us, not getting the names right. It kind of sets the whole tone for the show. So.
Well, don't worry, not for much longer.
Like, who are these clowns? 48 and they can't say their names right and still talk over each other. What the hell are these guys? Well, hi everybody. We are back. We do not have a guest for you this week, but that's okay because we're just going to have a nice, friendly roundtable discussion between the three of us over some topics that we have yet to determine. So, yeah, we have no plan.
I mean, I think we have a pretty good idea.
Yeah, really. Actually.
We do have some news that we can get into just right off the bat.
Yeah. Did you guys see flying cars? No? Okay, on to the news. No. Sorry.
That was great.
I feel like it's not family friendly though. Like you're teaching like date the underage chick at the track. Like that's the message.
Allegedly,
yeah.
That's the buzzword here.
She's probably 60 because you see all those high school movies and the people playing high schoolers are like freaking 45 and shit, and they just have really good makeup. So.
I mean, not even that. I mean, combine that with that, B movie element. Everyone always seems to look a lot older than maybe they actually are.
Could be, or they were held back. That's entirely possible too. I see that happening a lot in the RC world.
Wow.
All right, we better get off that. So the big news this week, before we get into some stuff that's a little bit backlogged, but the first IFS RTR has officially been announced from Element, their Trailrunner kit. And I guess I was actually kind of surprised with this release because I remember the sentiment kind of being earlier in the year when IFS came out that they really weren't too set on the idea of maybe an IFS car in the future. But I think that seemed to surprise a lot of people on how popular that conversion kit really became. And the support that I've been seeing online following this car, because I expected kind of a lot of backlash for it. And it seems like the initial first impression of that thing being announced was overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah, there was way more people that were upset when the IFS was released by itself, but like now that it's actually on a rig, it's weird. What's funny is that also, like, I want to say they straight up said they weren't going to release an IFS RTR.
That is what I thought, but I didn't.
Sneaky.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I didn't like really want to quote them, so I didn't want to like spread the fake news. So I thought that was the sentiment though. So this was a surprising thing for me when it came out.
Well, I was going to say, we just had Brad on. Didn't he say something on the show about how they weren't going to do it?
I thought so. I swear I don't know. I mean, maybe I imagined it, but I could have swore I heard him or somebody say that they weren't. But that's okay. It's here, and it's really stinking cool, and there's going to be a lot of rad aftermarket support for it, which I'm super excited about.
But that's kind of what I like about it, though, is that you can kind of get it, and you already have so many options about, like, how you can style it, like, right out of the box. Like, that's something that has always created the sort of negative stigma about RTRs, is they kind of just, they come the way they come. You have to, and like Axial for a number of years had different RTRs that you could get, depending on what style spoke to you. But it's kind of cool that you could get one body that you could get a bunch of different styling kits and decals that came with it. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I would really like to see more companies do that. Like, that to me, honestly, is probably one of the coolest things about the release.
Yeah, they have like 3 or 4 different decal sheets, I want to say.
Yeah, different decal sheets, different bolt-on parts. I mean, even little bolt-on fender flares. Like, it's awesome.
Well, and what was really cool with that thing too is with So when you're building the IFS or even the kit version, the axle housings are on the same parts tree as the knuckles and the
Sure.
C-hubs. And so since the IFS kit uses the same knuckles as the solid axle one, they just took the solid axle and rather throwing it away, they threw the housing in. So really all you got to buy is a set of universals and some C-hubs, I believe. No, C-hubs should be in there. So just universals and you should be done, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, I think that's pretty neat. And I would imagine that maybe some other companies will take notice of that and we'll start seeing this maybe become a trend with RTRs.
Yeah, and all
I mean,
the
why
scale
shouldn't they
accessories
really?
that come with it too. Like
Yeah.
tons of scale accessories.
Yeah, like why shouldn't they really? I mean, that's my thought at least. But no, I thought that was pretty cool. So I'd really like to see that trend kind of stay with it. I'm kind of excited. I really want one, and just I want to get one, and I just want to leave it like how it comes. Really, like just put whatever comes on in the kit and just leave it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, I'll probably do like the wheel and tire thing, but honestly, like, I don't know. I have a lot of decal ideas for that thing though. Like one of the things that I want to do is our overland wrap that we have right now that is the mountain range and the compass. I want to do that in black on clear vinyl and have that available for the Trailrunner. I think that'd be really
that would be a perfect opportunity to reintroduce that kit.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty neat. So
I don't know.
It's inspired some ideas and some designs and stuff. And honestly, like that, I'm so stoked on that thing that it's kind of gotten me all excited about the metric Tacoma that I'm building. So now I'm like all fired up to get that thing done. So
yeah,
no, I think that's pretty cool. And oh my gosh, what was I gonna say really quick here? One sec. It was just arrived, I want to say. No. It was on coming soon. I was going to quote retail on it. Yeah, so suggested retail of $389.99.
yeah.
You know what's crazy? I just noticed too. So it's $389.99 at A Main. Super good deal for everything that you get, and it's a tiny tire rig, which everybody knows is kind of hot right now. But their LiPo combo with the battery and charger is only $10 more.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's
Is that
pretty cool.
Is it a LiPo or nickel metal? If that's a LiPo for $10 more, you get a LiPo and a charger. That's a smoking deal. Let me look that up.
Yeah, it is a LiPo. The Trailrunner LiPo
Dude,
combo.
For 10, I don't care if it's like not even your first choice for a LiPo. That's why wouldn't you just spend the extra $10? That's a smoking deal.
Yeah, I'm verifying that right now, but it looks like it comes with a Reedy 3000 milliamp 30C 7.4 shorty battery and
A shorty?
Yeah.
Rad. No kidding.
Yeah. I mean,
I know why they did that actually, and it's why I'm having to go to a shorty on my IFS one is because the tires touch the battery tray.
yeah, well,
With the long stick pack. It's the first time I've had that happen with one of these. I only noticed it last night that it hits the large tray, so I'm going to have to go shorty on it.
yeah, I'm kind of surprised. I mean, this is, I guess, sort of the outside perspective, but I'm kind of surprised that people still run stick packs in crawlers.
I do because of the weight, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, on trail ones and stuff. I just now ordered a 3S shorty. I was going to get the ProTech one, but they're out of stock until mid-June or something like that. And it's funny because I just bought that Reedy 3000 milliamp shorty pack, and I guarantee I paid a lot more than just $10 for it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's incentive.
This is true.
Yeah, I mean, them as a dealer, I guess they can, or, as a manufacturer, they can include whatever, but let's see, Reedy Wolf Pack. You said it was a Wolf Pack, right?
No, I just said Reedy.
Oh, okay. 27, 4,000, 3,000, hard case shorty. That's is it a 2S or 3S?
2S 7.4.
It's a $40 battery.
Yeah, man, not a bad
For
battery that
$10,
it comes with.
dude, that's a smoking good deal.
Yeah.
Huh. Right on. So yeah, so awesome stuff from Element again.
Yeah.
So, and I guess there's even more to come this year, we've been told. So that is kind of that gets you excited.
Real quickly, so what did you say it was again? You said it was $389,
Yes.
and then how much for the battery and charger?
$399, I believe it says on here.
Because the one I'm looking at says $439 for the battery and charger.
What? Where'd you see that?
I can screenshot it and send it to you right now.
Weird. Yeah, I just pulled it up on AMAIN's site and it says $399.99. Weird.
I don't know. Maybe I got the debunked one.
You're on AMAIN's site?
Yeah, I'm on AMAIN.
Why are we looking at two different things? That's weird.
While we're talking, I'm going to send it to our show.
Yeah, mine says
honestly, that
$399
sounds
as well.
a little more. That sounds a little more right.
Yeah, this might be a typo then if that's the case.
Because while you were looking for it, I just literally looked it up.
Huh. Strange.
Oh, I know why now. It is $439.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I'm not looking at team price. I mean, it's no secret. Everybody knows we're sponsored by AMAIN. So, I mean, obviously we have like a team price on stuff. And that's definitely not what I quoted because it's less. Huh.
Yeah, because I just logged out of our account on AMAIN. It's $439.
Dude, that's crazy.
I just checked them back to back.
I wonder why what people are thinking right now as we're doing all this. Here, I'm sending it to you what I was looking at. That's really weird.
They're saying, Jay, you're a liar. You're lying to us.
This guy doesn't know anything.
What a noob.
God. Huh. Anyways, I don't know. It costs some money and you can get some stuff. So
regardless, you're talking about a $50-ish, $60 difference, which realistically, if you said that was a $40 battery and you're getting a charger with it, that's worth the money right there.
Balance charger at that. So yeah, that's still a pretty good
it's
deal.
A balance charger? That's even better.
Yep. Yeah, so that's still a pretty good deal.
Dude, do you remember the chargers we had when we very first got into this, like the LiPo chargers, how horrible they were?
Yeah, wall charger and leave it on there for 8 hours.
Yeah, oh my God, that was so painful.
Takes about as long as it does to charge my Movi.
Yeah, we got into this just at the right time as LiPos were starting to come out, and we had a very short experience with nickel metal.
I remember when we started racing, and we were racing it at JNS in 2011, and we had our nickel metal, or we had our Traxxas nickel metal packs we used for qualifying, and we saved our LiPos for mains.
Yeah, that's right. Man, those are the days, huh?
Yeah, it was the perfect time because we got in after nickel metal was really dying, and we didn't have to, hand wind motors anymore and maintain brush motors all the time. Brushless was really taking off.
What was I thinking running a Slash? Like, Adam, my first car was a Slash, like a lot of people, and we moved up here with the and found out there was a track within, about a 45-minute drive from us. And so we're like, well, let's start racing. That'd be fun. So we started going there to practice, started racing, and I'm not kidding. I probably, including the cost of the car, radio, all that stuff, I probably had about $900 invested in a Traxxas 2-wheel-drive Slash, and it still got waxed by SC10s. So
it was strange. Like, it kind of made sense at the time. Like, it makes sense why we bought those versus something else, because the other short courses at the time were not proven to be very durable, like the SC10 and the Kyosho. So it makes sense.
Yeah, Keith's Kyosho broke all the time.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that made me...
Kyosho made really fragile cars at the time. Well, that was my whole issue for a long time, because, like, you switched to the Kyosho car way sooner than me. I held on to the Slash way too long because I was worried that the Kyosho was just going to break. So it took me a long time to sort of make the transition over. But I remember, your Slash had, like, an LCG kit on it, and...
Yeah, the STRC one with like the Wrestler chassis.
Yeah, exactly. That was pretty wild. I think back, the amount of time that we spent in short course. Yeah.
Oh my God. Like it was just that trying to race two-wheel short course on that surface was like just throwing money out the window of your car while you're driving down the freeway.
But there's a good reason why, and it was because we were trying to chase performance, and at that time we were, like a lot of people where, people will just kind of throw money at things because they think it'll be faster because of that. And we found out that that's not really the case, especially with tracks and stuff. I mean, I don't care who you ask. Buying a Slash in itself is expensive, and trying to make them,
cheap,
and trying to make them competitive with anything is expensive. And, I was fighting pretty much tooth and nail with my Slash to try and keep up to like the race capable cars at the time. And it was fine, for what it's worth. I mean, for someone who's 12 years old, it was perfect. But then, just like we've talked about before, and, we talked about it on my show, where it was really fun when we were just out doing our thing, and we drove at revs, and we really didn't notice, like we threw Proline calibers on it, and all of a sudden the cars were money, and it was tons of fun. And then we came up here and we were halfway competitive, and all of a sudden it was like, okay, well, what money can we spend on upgrades here or there to try and make it more competitive? And that was really, that was kind of in sync with the death of short course altogether, because then things just kind of got out of control.
Yeah.
So I think we were just part of that problem is really what it came down to.
Yeah, no, that's true. It was, we were so new.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's got to learn somehow.
God, that area, though, that we lived in Oregon, that would have been so amazing for Scale RC, all that lava rock and stuff. We had really, really porous lava rock there, and it was everywhere. I mean, like, you would try and dig to build a, like, moto track or anything, and you always hit bedrock. Like, that place is just all rock with sand on top of it. I mean, the dirt sucked, but man, like now I think about it, like growing up, we had 10 acres out in rural Redmond, and we had this huge lava rock hill with trails all over it in our backyard and stuff. I mean, dude, it would have been heaven growing up there with Scale RC. Just would have been so much fun. But I don't know. That's why we need to go back sometime and check it out.
What we should do is that if we end up actually doing the like big road trip that we've been kicking around, either on the way down or the way back, we need to just bypass and go through Bend.
Take 97, take Highway 97 through Bend and through Madras and Redmond. And because I mean, not only that, there's some places that I want to like take our truck to, because it would be really fun out in Milliken Valley in the desert and stuff. So we need to do that. We'll have to like take the 10 off and drop it at your mom's place or something, leave it there.
Yeah, that'd be fine. So I think that would be super cool. There's probably so many places we could go out there with it.
Dude, that would be the ultimate trip. Hit that on the way down or back, go down, meet Adam, hit Crawl for Your Cure, turn around, hit By the Fire, which I realize that's, how far is LA from you, Adam? 8-9 hours?
Yeah, to go to Proline by the Fire from where I am in Redwood City is about an 8-hour drive.
That's not too bad. I mean, it takes about 8 hours to get to Central Oregon, to get to Cisco, or actually to get to Chico, it took us probably 11 and a half, 12 hours.
But so. I think from Central Oregon to get to Redding, I think is about 6 hours. So probably tack on another 2 to get down to wherever.
Yeah, I think we should take 5 all the way down and then come back
through like
Central Oregon.
Yeah, I think that'd probably be the best route.
God, that'd be a fun trip. Hopefully everything's open by then, because I've always wanted to do Crawl for Your Cure really bad.
We'll see, and I don't want to like jinx it. That's one event that I'm still hoping stays like on track, because like I've noticed that almost all the events that have been planned kind of like well into like what would be considered the safe time, they're still, postponing. Like, I know we didn't talk about it last episode, but Axialfest, the West Coast, aka the Donner, is postponed until 2021. They're not doing it, and they pushed back Badlands almost, I think, a full month.
Yeah, July 16th through the 18th is Badlands.
Which
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like they pushed it back very far, really, when you think about everything.
Yeah, no, it's just a month.
Well,
That's
they
not very
pushed it-
far away.
Yeah, well, they pushed it back because, well, it was going to happen, I want to say, third week of June.
Yeah.
So I think that was the original date, was like June 20 something. So it was basically a month before the West Coast, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy to see that, like, something like that you would think is, you know, kind of like in the what I call safe time would be postponed. I mean, I can understand the California one. I mean, it's our that right there says it all. We've had nothing but, craziness with everything going on. So that doesn't surprise me that California, due to the fact that it's in California, they postponed it. But yeah, so I mean, it's just crazy because that was one event that I was really looking forward to. Like, I was like really hoping to have the SCX 10.3 up there and running. So, but oh well.
We can actually go to that now, since we can tent camp without needing to be on the ground, since we don't own an RV or a trailer.
Yeah.
This is true.
That's something we could actually still go do.
And then Crawl Ferry Cure is pretty cool because it's at another campground, but like I said, I don't know what's going on, but that's so far out. That's beginning of October. Like, I want to say like around the 6th or 7th.
Yeah, I mean, they probably don't even need to think about rescheduling until, 1 or 2 months before, and then kind of reassess the situation.
So yeah, so we'll kind of see what happens there. But yeah, it's been kind of like crazy. So really changing a lot of what's going on as far as events take place.
Yeah, quick little thing, kind of RC related, kind of. I don't know if anybody saw my social media or not, but got a rooftop tent. If it's something that you guys have been thinking about doing, do it. It is the coolest thing ever, and it just opens up so many possibilities for RC trips and going and checking and stuff out, because you can literally just pull down a fire road, open the thing up, and camp for the night. Like, you can kind of just go anywhere with little setup or mess. So if you were looking to get out and do some RC adventuring, since a lot of events are being postponed or even canceled this year, definitely think about it. Spend that Trump money. It was that was one of the coolest things I think I bought, and is really convenient, and I just can't wait to use it some more for RC stuff. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, that's definitely something I wanted to get for my Chevy, but I just haven't gotten around to doing it because it's going to be kind of an investment, because the way I want to do it, I'm going to need a custom bed rack made, whether that's myself making it or a buddy of mine making it. That's still time and money, and then I got to get the tent on top of that. So just kind of been slow to react on that one.
I tell you what, though, if you do pull the trigger on it, dude, you won't be sorry. Like, I bought a $50 Amazon memory foam mattress, because the one that I have is the smaller of the two Smitty-built tents. And after throwing that memory foam, it's only like 2 or 3. I think it's a 3-inch memory foam pad. And then I just threw like a fitted sheet over it. Dude, I've never slept so good. It was so awesome. Like, just super comfortable, and like it breathed really well. And it was rad. It was really fun. I mean, I've always been a geek for camping and stuff. Like, I love that. And I'm, 43, and tents suck, and, your back hurts and everything else. And air mattresses weigh 300 pounds. So I was like over that the first time I used one. But man, like, it'd just be awesome. I remember seeing one for the first time at Axialfest in 2016. I think S-Pod had one on their Toyota, and I just lost my mind when I saw it. I thought it was just the coolest thing there ever was. But yeah, super, super nice. Can't wait to hit the trails. And I was going to say make some memories, but that sounds super, super Like I caught myself at go make some memories, guys. It'll be fun.
Are you talking about making memories with your RC cars or making memories in your pop-up tent?
Actually, the memories I was thinking of was quitting my job and just go fly some cars. That's actually what I was thinking about.
Wow.
He is not being serious.
This guy in the movie, it was a movie. It wasn't real. Cars don't really fly, they jump. So I know, like, right away the title's misleading, and then you find out that, like, there's a little bit of, like, the dude's kind of a Stachosaurus, and then it just it's a bad movie.
So actual crimes in that movie. Let's get into one. Is that I really didn't want to talk about it. I really didn't.
No, please do.
It's your show. In the review that we had read from effectively review from Rich Morgan at RC Network, they stated that he bought a RC 8.2 .2E RTR for $600.
That's the first crime, and that wasn't even on him. That was on West Coast Hobbies.
I couldn't believe that. Like, from that, at that point in the movie, it's just like, oh no.
Yeah, like immediately it's like, well, this isn't affordable, and I'm going to meet underage girls, and I'm going to lose my job, lose my wife. Like, I'm not going to race RC. This is stupid.
Well, you don't even race. If you just go to places and jump, apparently that's how you get the hookups. So
don't trip on all the panties being thrown at you when you buy your RC8 RTR.
Well, the funny thing is, if anybody knows how, those hobby stores really look like, if there are going to be panties thrown at you at that point, it'll be guys' panties, not girls.
Yeah.
And this is 2020, and if that's your thing, that's cool too.
Okay.
I mean, we don't want to single anybody out here, so Adam, please try and be a little more PC.
Hey, I'm very PC. What was non-PC about that?
You were implying that there's something wrong with man panties.
No,
that's not what he said.
To the fact that you were talking about that all the underage track girls are going to be throwing their panties at you.
First of all, let me just say this. We've been racing RC for 10 years. There are no track girls. Okay, this is RC. Like, I came from Moto, where there's, like, Jersey Chasers everywhere. And this is not like that. You're looked at kind of sideways when you're a grown man playing with toy cars. And there's no chicks at the track, and if they are, they're married.
This is really funny. When I was in school and trying to explain to other kids what I did, or even like other adults, and they'd always ask, like, okay, like, you guys, so it's like kind of you and a bunch of other kids that go out there and do it. And I was like, no, never any kids. All grown dudes.
There wasn't, dude. There was no kids.
All grown dudes in their 30s and 40s. Yeah.
It was you and Wilbur for like the longest time, and then Jesse got into it.
It came in waves, right? Like, there were kind of waves of kids here and there. Like, there'd be 3 or 4 that would pop up, but it was primarily me, like myself and Wilbur in the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was like the faces on the people that I was telling that to were just like, huh, okay.
Gee, cool, dude. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the most macho thing ever. And, there's one thing that I wanted to kind of clarify. So we've been guilty of saying it too, and that is calling things a one-to-one. I feel like that's misrepresenting things. I feel like we say one-to-one to make ourselves feel better. RC isn't a real motorsport. We don't need to get into that again, but it's not a real motorsport. And there's real cars, and then there's shrunken down replicas of those real cars that are toy cars. And we play with toy cars. You're one-to-one. saying 1-to-1 implies that it's a replica of something. It's not. It's a real one. And so, like, I get why people say it. It's because we're kind of trying to like justify that. Well, my 1-to-1, or this is like a 1-to-1. Well, it's like, no, that's a real one. This is a toy. Like you can drive to work in that one. You're 1/10 and you're 1-to-1. You can't hop in the 1/10 and like drive it to work. So we're not talking even remotely the same thing here. So, and it's okay. It's okay to call it, your 1-to-1 and your 1/10 and stuff. If it makes you feel better about doing the nerdy stuff that we do, then continue doing it. But we're just trying to justify it to ourselves. People look at us crazy when we say, well, my 1-to-1.
Very curious to hear Adam's thoughts on this.
Yeah, no, I don't agree with you at all on that one.
You
don't? Nope.
But a 1-to-1 implies it's a model too, right?
No, a 1-to-1 means that's the scale. It's a 1-to-1 scale.
But it's not a scale of anything. It's the original.
Yeah, but that means it's the scale that you're going off of. A 1/10 scale is a 1/10 of a 1-to-1 scale. So therefore, you are scaling this down. Yes, we understand it's 1/10. That's why when we refer to what you're copying, you say a 1-to-1, because that's what you'd actually see if you were to blow that scale to the real 100% scale.
But nobody in the real world that doesn't race RC refers to their car as a 1-to-1.
Well, it's a circumstantial
term. Talking about a scale version, so they don't need to.
Am I just being mean-spirited and trying to make people feel bad?
Yeah, I think you are. I think you're being very mean, and you're crushing people's hopes and dreams at this point.
No, because there's still flying cars to watch. They can hope and dream watching that. That whole movie was filmed on.
Can you add what is the full scale weight of 60 grams of brass on each end of the axle? Can you do that in the 1-to-1 world?
Not really, because I don't know anybody who puts wheel weights on a real vehicle, but
no, dude, I do, because it balances the tires. It's the same as an RC car. It's lead weight.
No, those are lead weights on your wheels, not on your knuckles.
I know. I was mocking our hobby.
Oh, okay. Well, you fooled me.
Oh, okay.
So,
Travis, where are you going with that, Trav?
What do you mean? Where am I going with that?
Talking about the weights and stuff.
There's not a whole lot to get into, but I think a PSA should be made is that if you do put 60 grams of brass at least on each end, or on both ends of your axle, the axle will not survive. You might as well just get a custom one machined out of brass, because that seems to be a lot closer to what you're going for there. So if it does happen to happen, it's because of the brass. Apparently, a lot of people don't know that. And so I just want to make sure that everyone is on the same page.
I can't believe these things break. Dude, you spend $400 on a car and it breaks if you crash the crap out of it.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this last show.
I don't understand.
We talked about this last show, but I mean, this was just kind of indicative of that. But anyways, there is, back to, I guess, some actual news. RC companies started making masks. So you can now be fashionable on the trail or at the track. These are primarily tilted towards track racers, because it is just that kind of demographic from time to time, that you can now get your favorite masks from S-Works, which is a big 8-scale brand and an on-road brand, or you can get them from Hootie, which everyone knows is X-Ray's famous luxury brand. Now, there's a couple points I want to make about this. First of all, like branded masks, whatever, like if that's your thing, fine. But my thing is, I don't understand the point for buying masks for, fashion, because that's essentially what's going on here. I mean, you might as well just, put a sticker of your name on it and everything else. I think it's really tasteless. But also, Hootie really raised the bar, because not only do they have a normal mask, but they have a high performance mask. And
I just threw up in my mouth.
The thing is, what I found particularly interesting about this was that all of these companies that are selling masks that aren't like actual medical masks, and this is for very good reason, hence why are you even buying these, regardless if you think the masks work or not. maybe this is targeted to the people who think they don't, but that's a different thing, is that all of these companies have to put a disclaimer saying that these are not intended for medical preventative against spread of COVID.
They're not functional, basically.
Well, they can't claim they are because they've gone through no regulation that proves that, right? So if Hootie's going to release something they call a high-performance mask, doesn't that kind of open the door up for someone to buy one of these masks, go get coronavirus, and cash in on a lawsuit? That kind of seems like they're opening a pretty wide door for somebody to go and do that. Right? Like
I think
that's
it's
dangerous.
a new low in human history that we're even that there's companies even trying to cash in on a situation where lives are being lost.
Like this one is old news, but like Aeromax did the same thing. Aeromax like makes really expensive tool sets and just really expensive tools in general. They're also kind of like a hoodie. I mean, the stuff looks cool, but it's this like the same kind of stigma. And if you spent $200 or more on an order, they gave a free mask. It's like,
disgusting still.
Yeah, that's horrible. Like, I don't understand. I mean, I understand why people are doing it. It doesn't mean I agree with it.
If you're trying to cash in on the mask thing, you are a disgusting human being. And I know that's like a pretty bold statement, but you're gross and it's disgusting and it's trashy and it takes a real POS to do something like that.
In the beginning,
I'm just going to stand firm and say,
in the beginning of all of this, it was hard to source masks. A lot of people were, like hospitals didn't have a lot. Workplaces really struggled to buy a lot of masks because just like, when people were going to get food, like everyone is really swarming around these things. There's just the panic factor. People were buying a ton of it and everyone needed them suddenly. Well, it's been a month or so now. And now if you can go to the grocery store, get everything that you couldn't get a month ago. Now, like my workplace in particular, I can get as many masks as I need. And I know a lot of places are like this. All of a sudden, like every grocery store I go to, all their employees have masks and stuff like that. And before you couldn't get them. So not being able to source masks isn't really an excuse anymore. And that's the only reason that I could see someone buying one of these. But at this point, you might as well just make one homemade, right? Or support someone like Small Time that is just making whatever mask they can. But buying branded RC masks,
or a performance version of one.
Yeah, I mean, that's
it's weak and hungry, dude. It's so weak and hungry.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that. That was really upsetting for me to see.
There's another company,
good rant.
There's another company that's got those.
G start with an R. Oh, are you serious?
Yep.
Who does?
I was gonna say Reefs, but G Speed, huh?
G Speed. I don't know who that is.
Oh, then you're blessed.
We don't need to go into that.
Oh boy.
But yeah. So. Actually, I take it back. It's not an actual mask. It's called a COVID-19 neck gaiter.
Jesus.
It's in the name. COVID-19 neck gaiter.
I mean, a lot of people do believe that putting it around your neck is the best way to prevent.
Well, no. Meaning that it's like more than just a mask. It's the whole thing. It's kind of similar to like it's similar to like the SA thing. The face shield that goes up. All the way around.
Okay, yeah, I see that now. I'm looking at a picture right now on the G Speed page.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep. Well, that's very scary that you're putting that name in there because you should not be labeling
one of those.
You should not label that it is COVID-19 if you have not held tests to medically prove if it does or does not.
I'm pretty sure you need FDA approval to sell masks for medical purposes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you need FDA approval. So a lot of companies are trying to skirt that with that disclaimer. I get that that's a loophole, but I mean, I'm of the mind where that means that I shouldn't buy one and I should just get the masks that are essentially provided free to me at this point. And it's probably still cheaper getting a actually medically tested mask than it is buying one of these branded ones.
You don't have your sponsors on one.
Well, so with that being said, get your That Scale RC Show mask at SOR.com.
Oh man,
we're not making masks.
Never ever would I stoop that low.
We're not making We're not making masks. Just want to get that clear.
No masks. No masks.
No.
So, but if you actually want to go back to, I don't know, I thought this would be kind of like a fun, interesting kind of debate, since you guys are both obviously team associated drivers.
Dom? Oh.
No. Team associated drivers, and I've, more on the Axial, bandwagon. I'm looking on A-Main's website, and I'm looking at the base price for both things, the Axial SCX 10.3 kit and the Enduro Trailrunner ready to run. And I'm just looking at the price points and kind of like what you're getting, and there's about a $20 price difference. So I just thought it'd be kind of interesting to hear your guys' thoughts between the two.
This is comparing the RTRs?
Well, no, that's the thing. That's why I said it's kind of interesting, because Axial doesn't have an 'RTR yet. It's only a kit.
Oh, this is the kit version.
Yes, the kit version. So
right.
The Axial SCX 10.3 kit is $369, and the Element RTR, the Enduro Trailrunner, is $389. One's an RTR, ready to go. One's a kit. You still got to add all your electronics and stuff to it. So I just thought it was kind of interesting to see the price difference.
I think there's a good reason for this.
I know there's a good reason for it. I just thought it'd be an interesting conversation to have.
Well,
yeah.
If anybody wants to make that decision on their own in the store, like which one would I lean towards, they have some, kind of like discussed highs and lows to go off of.
Yeah, I think if you're, these are just the different like features are going to be like, what is more important to you? Is it like kind of is it really like under, like on the chassis, or is it on the body? Like that's the key difference that I'm looking at here. I could see someone buying the SCX 10.3 kit and spending kind of the extra money, I guess, comparing like the base chassis for the same reason maybe they would buy an SSD Trail King, because you get so much more just on the chassis. So, that's really, I think, the big thing. It's just like, what are like the flares, having it come with a, like an engine servo cover, dig, stuff like that. Like, are those things worth it to you, really? It's not like, for me personally, and it's not because it's an Axial associated thing. Like, I look at that car and like, I'm not particularly interested in the dig. I'm not particularly interested in the fenders. Right. So, for me, like I really like a bare car. So that's like why I would be inclined to go the other way. However, I could totally see like if someone like is trying to go with just a full like scale top to bottom vehicle, like this is a really good starting point for them to do that, because a lot of the thing, and have it be halfway capable, is this is a really good starting point, because it already comes with so much just attached to the chassis, and you can do anything with a body now, so conceivably it could be less work. So I could see it from that standpoint for sure.
Yeah, if I was to circle back on what you said, the only thing is, because I know just based on how I set mine up, you could actually opt to not run the dig, 2-speed, any of that stuff. You can actually just, lock all that out and just run it as a bare bones car.
You could do that. For me, that would make me potentially skeptical to buy it, because of all the features that I would not be using.
No, I totally agree, because actually it's funny that you say that. I'm actually up in Auburn again working, and my buddy's son, the guy that I'm working for, his son goes, he was asking me all about my SCX 10.3, because he knows I recently just got it all done, and he just bought one, and he's putting it all together, and he wanted to know how I set everything up to do the dig and the 2-speed, and I said, well, right now the dig is in there, it's ready to go, but I have it zip tied so it won't go anywhere, because I haven't gotten around to putting in a servo for it, and I don't know which way I want to go with on that right now. And he said, so you didn't use the 2-speed? And I said, nope. And he goes, and you didn't use the portals? And I said, nope. And he goes, you're like not using a lot of the features that it comes with. And I said, I understand. I said, I personally, and this is just comes down to, like you were saying earlier, a personal preference. I wanted something that looks really scale. I love the body work. I love the scale detail on that body. And I said, I want to make it look what I call scale with, non-portal axles. And I said, I've never really seen the need for a 2-speed. I mean, that's part of the reason why myself personally, I've never been a Traxxas TRX4 fan, because all that extra stuff they give you, I've never really seen the need, or like I've never been on the trail and said, it'd be really nice if I could just shift it into another gear right now and just roost the tires. It's like,
right.
I've never so that personally, that's why I just never gravitate, like you were saying, towards something like that with those options, because it just doesn't pertain to me. Now, I'm sure there's somebody else that loves to live, the whole saying WFO, wide freaking open, and they want to be in second gear all the time and just roost and, go 100 miles an hour over everything as fast as they can, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's why I think some of these cars that have these options are becoming the new, I want to say are going to become the new trend, or I guess the base for some of these kits, because it's now giving the consumer the ultimate decision when they're buying this, because now it's going to come down to pretty much, what pertains to you. If all these cars, like let's say Element, Traxxas, Axial, since those are like the 3 big ones. Okay, let's even add in Red Cat to that. Now, if you take all 4 of those and you were to basically do the same thing, every kit does the same thing. You have the options to run it this way, that way, all this stuff. It's really going to come down to, at that point, what your, I guess, brand preference is. Because if they're all offering the same thing, then you're going to be able to just pick and choose how you want to build your car.
Well, on that same note, though, and it's kind of funny because this was another reason why I was kind of knocking as far as like why I wouldn't buy it. But if you're someone who does a lot of builds, this is a great buy for you if you don't want to use these features, because then you can have a 2-speed, you can have a dig, you can have those for potentially something else that you have, that if you wanted to make like a super capable rig, you already have like really big components that you can start that build off with immediately. So even if it's not a part of this build, you kind of do like a bare bones version of the SCX-10 you still have stuff left over you can use, like the portal. So like if you're like a builder and does like tons of rigs all the time, like I said, I'm not. So because of that, those things don't speak to me. But there's a lot of people out there who build tons of cars and are always building something. They can never stop. And so this is, even if they aren't going to use all of these, how it's supposed to quote unquote come, then you still have all of these parts that you can use left over for something else that could potentially inspire another idea. So for those people, it's a killer buy and still worth the extra money.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely could see it from that angle as well.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was just something that I thought was pretty interesting. I mean, I just find it really interesting to watch how the market's going, or how, I guess you could say, what's coming down the pike, what's actually, like I said, just the direction it's going is just.
Yeah, we're seeing a trend. We're definitely seeing a trend now. I don't know. I think if I were to quit my job and steal $600 from my fiance and get into scale RC, I would probably, I don't know, I'd have a hard time, because the SCX-10, I like Jeeps, and the SCX-10 that body is rad and super, super detailed, and the Element has a rad body and it's super detailed. That would be a really hard decision, because I am kind of neutral in the fact that I like Toyotas and Jeeps. I'm not kind of one way or the other like a lot of people are. And I don't know, like if I was a newbie, I think the SCX-10 probably the minute I opened up that box and started looking at everything, because like that is a pretty comprehensive build. There is a lot of stuff
there's no denying. No, there's no denying.
Yeah, like I think I would be a little bit scared and feel like maybe I got in over my head. I don't think I would recommend the SCX-10 to a brand new guy into it unless he was just super mechanically inclined.
If they were gung-ho on an Axial, I would sell them on a 2, no question.
Oh yeah.
No question.
Yeah, which I wanted to talk about that in a second too, but I don't know. I mean, we're also looking at IFS versus portals. They're completely two different beasts, but man, it would be a hard decision. If I was a newbie, I'd probably go with a trail runner. If I was just dead set on building a kit and everything, I would, possibly do the three. The thing, and I'm not trying to badmouth Axial at all when I say this, so I just kind of want to make a disclaimer right away. But like Axial, the Red Cat, and the Traxxas, I look at those chassis with the body off, and with the way the fenders and everything else are, like, it's not something you just throw a new body on and go. Like, there's going to be trimming to get the inner fenders to fit. If you're going with a body wider than a Jeep, the inner fenders that come on the Axial are probably going to be a fair distance from the edge of the wheel well opening on the body, so like things are going to kind of fit funny. You're going to have to get creative. I do like the fact that element stuff is still really stripped down. If you look at the two with the bodies off, it's really bare bones. There's not a lot of extra frills. It's just what's needed to do the job is there, and that's it. And if you want to add fender liners to it, you can get the Lexan ones and paint them and cut them to be the right width for whatever body you're putting it on. There's a lot of pieces with that SCX 10.3, like the shock towers and stuff. Like, it looks, you would know this better than me obviously, but like it looks like all of that's kind of one piece, so it might be really hard to start monkeying with all that to get another body to fit.
But there's
So
oh, go ahead.
yes, I'll just answer this real quickly. Yeah, the shock hoops are all one piece, and I think they did that more of to fill in the gap, because if you really look at how the SCX 10.3 was designed, it's those wheel liners, or I guess you'd say fender liners, are actually designed to go hand in hand with those shock towers, so that way it blacks out all underneath, which is kind of cool, because now you're not just having one thing doing everything. I mean, so like if you really wanted to take off the fenders and stuff, or I keep calling them fenders, but it's the wheel liners or the wheel wells, if you wanted to take that off, you're still going to have a big chunk of black in there. So
from the shock tower, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they are separate pieces then.
They are separate pieces. So actually, okay. And that's one thing I do like about those wheel wells, they are separate and they come off rather easily. There's only like one screw holding each one on. They actually get sandwiched in between a couple other parts, which kind of like help hold it there. But once you undo the one screw, they kind of fold right out of the way. Because when I had to modify mine a little bit, I had to keep taking them off in the front to make sure everything would work, and then put it all back together. So it really wasn't that hard. The only gripe I have with it, and I know this is with the SCX 10.3, the only gripe I have about the front fenders or wheel liners is they do interfere with the inside of the fender that you bolt on the fender to. The problem is you almost have to spread the body a little bit. My recommendation is, which I've already done on mine, I need to do a little bit more, is you take the Dremel with like a flap wheel and grind it back a little bit. Just keep making passes, like almost take off like an 1/8 inch to a quarter on each side, and you will not have to spread the body. It'll just go right on after that.
That body's probably on there pretty securely too, I bet.
It is. It's not. That's the other thing too. If, like I said, I know Travis nailed it on the head. You're like comparing two totally different beasts. That's kind of why that's not why I wanted to talk about this, but I thought it'd make interesting conversation, because you're able to like talk about so much and really, compare like different, aspects of each model. But,
well, it's not really, I mean, it's not apples to oranges, I mean, like if you're in the market to buy a new crawler, and like, especially if you're getting into this the first time, like you're going to be looking at all your options. So I realize there's like drastic differences between the two, but the question's still going to be there as a consumer, like, wow, well, that looks cool, I'd buy that, or that seems cool too, I'd buy that. So, I mean, this is, even though they're two totally different cars, like, it's a very realistic conversation that people are going to have when they're looking to buy something.
But we're missing part of this though. Okay. Is that what we're missing here is that, and I want to expand on why, so this might be a lengthy answer, but this car was not made in mind to compete with the Element market. This car was made in mind to compete with the Traxxas market, because as much as we hate to admit it, Traxxas made a really good crawler, and it is loaded with features. And that is the one thing that I notice why people who buy Traxxas tend to gravitate more towards Traxxas than Axial or Element, is because they like how many features it comes with right away. This is Axial's response to that, is that they're trying to make something that's all inclusive. So this is not in any way, to me, like, I look at this and I don't know if anyone really, I think there's a lot less people debating between this and the new Trailrunner than there are people buying this versus any TRX4 that's out there right now. And
Right.
I'm of the opinion that, like, less is more. So for me, like I said, I'm not a constant builder, so the amount of stuff that this comes with is it turns me off of that purchase. But for me, for example, right? Like, I build drones as a day job, okay? And for our customers that buy our drones do variety of work. A lot of it is cinema based, going to make movies and stuff like that. So they'll buy our drones and gimbals in mind for that. Or they'll do land surveying. We have a really big customer that does a ton of land surveying with our drones. So if someone buys one of our drones, they have the option to get a different style landing gear to mount the batteries at the bottom instead of the top. So then they can mount cameras to the top. They can get FPV, first person view. They can get that as an add-on package. That's part of this. They can get different style of rubber vibration absorbers to, change your vibration isolation depending on whatever your need is. To me, and I understand this might not be the most cost-effective option, but I'm thinking of, like, if I could have, like, the perfect world that this kit would be released in, it's that this is a bare chassis, and having the fenders, having the dig, the 2-speed, those things are like standalone option assemblies that you can buy at checkout if you want to. That, to me, would, or like, even if, like, they just sold the base car and Axial, even if, like, it wasn't like a checkout option, like Axial just sold these components that were compatible, just standalone, ready to go. You can buy them. All you have to do is install them and you're done. You're not buying a bunch of parts trees and stuff like that. To me, that would make something like this a much more attractive purchase, because then there's not nearly as much that I personally am going to have to throw away, because I'm a minimalist. So a lot of this, like I said, does not speak to me. So I understand the people who see all this, all the checked boxes, and they're thinking, wow, you get so much in this kit. Yeah, you pay for it, but it does come with a lot. Like, it's a fair price. So that's just my thought, at least. But, like, to me, like, that's something that I'm starting to see this bit of arms race starting, and I think it's going to be kind of an Axial versus Traxxas battle, where it's going to be how much can we stuff into a kit to make it like this all-inclusive crawler right out of the gate. And that's, like, something that for me as a consumer, like, even, like, before Element, would instantly turn me off of getting either of these.
Yeah, people love gadgets. I mean, that's just how it is, and it's like when you buy a car, it's all about how many features are in it, with buying a real car. And I get that, because people are going to look at this and be like, oh, for this amount of money, you get this, and this. I hope that maybe they do some sort of a builder's kit with the SEX 10.3. And it kind of is like what you're talking about, where you can buy a portal kit for it if you want, or you can, get whatever updates that come, upgrades that come in the current kit that's offered, minus like the body and stuff. So maybe they'll do a stripped down version like the TRX4 Sport, which obviously I don't know the sales numbers, but I would imagine that there's a lot more TRX4 Sports running around out there than the full bells and whistles one. I mean, we had one for about a month and sold it, and we had the TRX4 Bronco, and I didn't use anything that came with it. Like, I didn't use any of the fancy features at all. It didn't apply to what we do here. But like I said, people love gadgets, and they like all, it can do this, or it does come with this, and so that, it was a smart move on Axial's part for sure. I mean, Traxxas took a really big chunk of market share away from everybody.
Oh,
when they
yeah.
entered the market.
Yeah, they did.
Everybody felt that.
Well, just to answer real quickly, because it's not like an easy number to just say, oh, if you get a Traxxas Sport, you're saving this amount. Because realistically, if you get the Sport, I guess the Sport RTR is $339 and the Sport kit is $279. And if you ask my honest opinion, I think you get more bang for your buck with the Traxxas TRX4 Sport kit, because that's the one that comes with that safari rack, the bumpers, all the stuff.
Oh, that's right. And for not being a real truck, that looks pretty good.
Exactly. And if you get like the Traxxas Sport, which you can now get in the tan, the blue, or the red, is $339. And yes, it's RTR. It comes with a remote and everything. But realistically, if I was to look at that $339 number, that's pretty high for I guess you could say, a stripped down car.
Yeah, and especially like, I don't know, like with Element, I've noticed this a lot. People buy them and then they post up on the page. Like the very first thing is like, I want to get a different ESC. What's a good ESC to upgrade to? And it's like, well, I don't get that, but that's a whole other conversation. But I mean, most people, it seems like, are just gonna scrap everything, all the electronics that came with it anyways. So I think in that situation, the kit's definitely the way to go. I mean, I like kits. I mean, I don't like building them. That's no secret. I absolutely hate it because I just don't have the time for it. But I mean,
well, that's why this is probably, and I don't know if you ever saw these when you first got into RC, but Axial used to have a version of cars called an ATR, RTR, almost ready to run.
Right.
And basically what it was a complete car minus electronics.
Which is pretty smart too. Didn't Traxxas do that before they had the actual kit? They had like, you bought the TRX4 kit. I think it was the Bronco without a body basically, but it came assembled in like chunks. Like the shocks were already assembled, so you just put the shocks on. Axles and stuff are assembled, you just put those on. And I think that was kind of their first attempt at a kit, if I remember right. And then they went with a Sport kit that's like a build it from the ground up version.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I never paid too much attention because, like, I'm not trying to sound mean, but Traxxas has always been more like the toy grade. So the TRX4 was actually their first like step into what I would call hobby grade RC cars, where you're actually trying to make it look like something. It's not a Slash, it's not a Bandit, it's not a Rustler, it's not a Stampede. It's actually supposed to look like something. So it's kind of like, so that's why I never really paid attention, because they've just never appealed to me in that way. And I have to agree.
They're kind of expensive, dude.
Yeah, well, I have to agree also with Travis on the fact that sometimes less is more. Like, I'm also one of those, I know for a fact that the more you have, the more chances you can have issues on the trail. So, if you have something that's running like 4 servos, there's 4 different parts that could break, versus a car that just has a steering servo, you got 1 to worry about.
Or your locking diff cables, or all the crazy stuff that goes along with that.
And I understand that. And I guess the thing I'm trying to come up with, like, I guess the best answer for people who want to have a minimalist car but not pay the price for something like, let's say you were trying to get like an SCX 10.3 and you really wanted all the features of an SCX 10.2. If you really were going that route, I would say get a builder's kit, a raw builder's kit, because that comes with the simple 3-gear transmission. Get that, buy the SCX 10.3 body with the mounts, and then apply that to the SCX 10.2 if you were going that route.
That body does look really good.
The body's like really, really cool on it.
And honestly, Traxxas's bodies, with the exception of the Mercedes, do look really nice. The
Oh yeah, no,
Blazer,
don't get me
the
wrong.
Blazer and the Bronco look really good. I mean, they've done a good for being new. They've done a really good job nailing down the whole like scale part of it.
Mhm.
They're all kind of big. Is the other thing I noticed, and that was one of the things I didn't necessarily like also about that TRX4 Bronco is, dude, the thing just felt
It's a giant
huge on the
car.
trail when you're
Yeah.
trying to crawl. Yeah, it's just massive, and like so I kind of like the little more scaled down version of stuff than the like League of Their Own size where they just do their own thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the unfortunate thing is, I don't know, I don't know who said it. It might have been a few episodes ago, but one of our guests said something about that our 1/10 scale, or what they're calling 1/10 scale, is actually closer to like 1/8 or
Correct.
1/12, and instead of and I was like, yes and no. I mean, I think the problem is too many people like Traxxas, they started implementing their own what they would call 1/10 scale, and it changes the depth for everybody.
Yeah, I wish that could be more standardized because from an enthusiast standpoint, that being somebody who really enjoys taking pictures, because I mean that's, I don't know why, but it kind of brought out like the inner photographer in me when I started doing scale RC. But one of my pet peeves is when you have two cars next to each other and the sizes are just so radically out of proportion. Like that's something that's always really bothered me. Like Traxxas's D110 and like RC 4-wheel drive's D110 are not even close. Like there's such a huge size difference, and like I honestly like the size of the RC 4-wheel drive body a lot more because it is a little more realistic looking if it's parked next to something else in pictures. I mean, I realize you can't always get it right, but like even like Axial's SCX-10-2, when they first released the RTR and the kit version with the Cherokee body, dude, that body is massive. Like it's so big. And like if you see a Cherokee in real life, they're not a big vehicle. They're barely bigger than a 4-door JK. Like they're both really, really small. So I mean, that kind of, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's because they were trying to have something make 4.75 tires look smaller and a little more scale proportionate. I mean, obviously it's no secret the 475s go over stuff a lot better. And so maybe they did that so that it wouldn't look like a monster truck having 4.75s tucked under that Cherokee body. But I mean, the everybody's kind of just on their own program with scale sizing, and that's something that's always really bugged me.
Well, I get what you're saying because like it actually happens with like one of the rigs I have, my hard body Tamiya Clodbuster Chevy. That body is tiny compared to some. Yeah, I would say that's more 1/12 scale than 1/10 scale. It's just if you compared the Tamiya hard body Clodbuster, which is supposed to look like an 80 Chevy, and you were to actually put that next to like let's say even the Proline, mid 80s step side Chevy that they came out with, the Proline body towers over the Tamiya one. It's just that much bigger, and it's like I said, so it makes it hard, like you were saying, when you go out on trail and you're with a couple other people because realistically you're not getting the true size proportion right, because now I'm in a car, when you pull up next to this person with a Jeep, the Jeep looks bigger than the Chevy, and it's like, name a Chevy pickup truck that's smaller than a Jeep in the real world.
Yeah, I know it. I don't know. It seems like it's a small gripe on the surface, obviously, but like if you're really into taking pictures and stuff like that, yeah, it's kind of an issue. It's like you'll have like the one little tiny shrunken down car, like Tamiya's Tundra. I see a ton of Tamiya Tundras, and they look ridiculous parked against something else.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. It would be nice to see them get on like a universal kind of like body size, but it is what it is. We just kind of got to work. I mean, it actually brings you back to full circle. Like if you actually think about it, my biggest gripe, and like I don't want to sound like a hater, but my biggest gripe with Proline lately was I think they're more worried about having the body fit easily to what's available versus just saying, hey, this is the size of the body. If you want to make it work with your car, you're going to have to stretch your links. You're going to have to stretch your wheelbase. You're going to have to modify some things to make it work. Almost like how it was back in the day, like when I started. Like when I started, you had to pick what body like you wanted to go with, because there wasn't one designed for a crawler. They were all meant for monster trucks. You had to look at the wheelbase and say, okay, that wheelbase is the closest to what I'm running, and I could either open up the wheel wells a little bit, or I can shrink something a little bit, or I can extend something a little bit to make it work. Now it's like, since there is such a a popularity with the like the trail truck style, which has like been around 12.3, 12 and a half wheelbase has been like the go-to lately. They've been making everything fit that, so now it just plops on a vehicle instead of having any kind of modification to it. Now, the positive is you got your average person who doesn't like modifying their car, doesn't really know where to begin, and doesn't really want that hassle. They can just purchase a body, throw it on the rig. Now, where I see the downfall is stuff like the Gladiator. That is a killer body for somebody to come out with. Market on a Gladiator, it's like the hottest thing in the Jeep world right now. And if you can have one that looks right, you would like dominate. I feel Proline fell short because they shrunk that body down so much from what it really would look like in the scale form to fit that 12.3 wheelbase.
This is the thing that really bothered me, because I understand, I guess, from the standpoint of what, like, yeah, the body would be huge. Like if you see one of those Gladiators, like in actual life, like it's a big body on that chassis. But for actual scale enthusiasts, like that's not a negative. Like I wouldn't buy that for function. I wouldn't buy a Gladiator body that was like true 1-to-1 size and put it on my car and expect the thing to crawl super well. I really wouldn't. Like, because that's not why I'm buying it.
Here, that Gladiator body right now is one of their best sellers, and I think the average dude honestly doesn't care about the stuff that we're griping about. Like they're just like, Gladiator sick, I want it.
Which is fair.
But I did see this, and this is an awesome option that probably not too many people know about. It was maybe CBE that did it. He ended up selling it, but he took the Traxxas Slash Gladiator body and stretched the links out on his axial rig and put that on it, and it looked dialed. The one for the Slash looks perfect on a crawler. Yeah, so if somebody's thinking about going that route, that's probably a pretty good alternative.
Yeah, because that one, I think the ratio to the way it looks is more scaled than the one that they actually designed for the scaler. Because the one they designed,
and it is long.
Yeah, well, because realistically, the Jeep Gladiator is long. The cab is a certain length compared to the bed. Like, all that's supposed to be like what gives the car its attributes, and you could tell, hey, that's a Jeep Gladiator. They, like I said, to me, they kind of messed it up a little bit. And like I said, that could be me just being super hard on it, but I mean, I haven't seen one in real life, but that's like the new Proline van body. I think it fell short because I think they're more worried about it going on a 12.3 versus making it actually be a van body, where most likely you'd have to shorten the wheelbase to make it work, because there's not really a lot of long vans. They're kind of short.
Yeah, that's true. Like you occasionally see like those sports mobiles where they have they've sectioned the body to make it longer and stuff. But yeah, I can't. Me personally, I mean, from like a purist standpoint, I'm with you guys. But I think as far as like just the everyday dude that just wants a cool body on his rig and it's going to get trashed in 6 months, just doesn't care, and they're just going to run whatever, But there are the guys that just geek way out like us that, are like, it needs to be this way and this way and this way.
Well, this is that Scale RC show. So
that's true. that is quite true. But yeah, I mean, so I don't know. I get why they did it. It just, stuff like that doesn't necessarily work for me. Know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I'd still say I'd like to see somebody do the what is it, the mutt cut from.
I was just thinking that. I was gonna say.
I really wanted. I thought that because if
Dumb and
anyone,
Dumber.
yeah,
Yep.
if anyone listens to my show too, they know that I have like the A-Team intro, and I thought it'd be cool to make an A-Team van as well.
An 18 van would be cool. Mutt cuts would be cool. Another cool looking one would be like, I don't know, like a security company one or a rider van, you know, like a rental van or something. Some stuff
Or-
like that might be kind of funny to see.
a free candy van.
Yeah, I've been like waiting for the jokes to start.
Someone's gonna do it. Someone's gonna do it.
It'll be like Dan Perkins or somebody. I would love to hear what Dan Perkins has to say about it.
Oh yeah, that'd be hilarious. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's just like I said, we are that Scalar C show, so you know, we're gonna nitpick a little bit, but
Oh yeah, I mean, and you know, with what we're into isn't necessarily what everybody else is into. It's just we happen to be right and they're all wrong. Oh, just kidding, guys. God. But no, like honestly though, taking a step back, look at the releases we've had, and we're almost halfway through the year now. This has been a crazy year. What I want to know though, and I'd love to get this answer from somebody at Axial. I bet we would not get this answer though if we were to ask, because it's probably a little bit too personal. But when you think about it, like the UMG 6x6 was released really close to the SCX-10 III. So now if you're looking to buy an Axial rig, does that work against Axial? Because now somebody is like, oh, well, that's old. That's an old model now. I don't want that. That's the 2. I want the 3. I want the newest, latest, and greatest version.
Are you just comparing the 2 platform or the 6x6 to the 3?
The 6x6 to the 3, like the whole 2 platform, because really, like they had the Ford F100s that they released. They had the 6x6. Those are all fairly recent releases, and then they throw the 3 out just a few months later. So what does that do to a customer, you know? Like, and I would love to hear people's answer to this. Like, how do you choose then? Do you buy the 2? Like, do you go and say, okay, I'm going to buy like the Blazer or a Deadbolt or whatever platform or whatever body on the SCX-10 you go with?
I would look at this from the standpoint of like, if it's a 2 versus 3 conversation, I think there's still plenty of reasons to buy it too, and I think it's just because of, like, I think the chief reason would be how much of the stuff that comes with the 3 would you actually use. But if you're comparing a 6x6 to the 3, I feel like someone who's interested in the 6x6 has a really specific reason they are interested in the 6x6.
Is what you're saying.
I don't think if they were interested in buying a SCX-10 III suddenly over a 6x6, which they really had their heart set on, it's because that the release of the 3 inspired them with a new idea. Otherwise, they were buying that 6x6 with a very clear intention.
It just makes me wonder if they're kind of selling against themselves now. You know what I mean? Like, am I explaining that good? Like,
no, I see what you mean. I've always been of the mind that this is a good problem to have. I think for a consumer, maybe a bad problem to have for a company. But I think Axial releases stuff almost too frequently.
Yeah, but dude, they get hammered so much by people that on like every Facebook page is saying, sure would be nice to have a new release. Why don't you guys release something new? Why do you keep releasing
this
Jeeps,
is indicative of the fact that just there are people you will never make happy. That's why I was sorry. Well, I was just saying that's why I was so surprised that the Trailrunner had such positive reviews at first, because I was just like, there's going to be anything and everything that people like would have rather seen than this for whatever reason, regardless if it was popular or not. And they're going to complain about it. I didn't see that, and that's a rarity.
They get hammered about the IFS.
No, I really did too. But it's
almost taken care of though with just having to buy universals. Like,
oh sure, I mean,
they kind of thought of everything there, but like what I was going to say, like with me, if I wasn't Team Associated guy and I was in the market to get an Axial rig, like I had my heart set on getting an Axial one because I like their product. I like that you can walk into almost any hobby shop and get parts for them. For me, I think I would probably buy a raw builder's kit. Get it. I think I would get an SCX10 too because it is really minimalist and it has that tried and true 3-gear transmission. It doesn't have all the stuff I wouldn't use. And I would get that, get the new JL body for it off the 3, and build something that way. I think that would probably be the direction that I would go. What I hope that they do, because I don't know if my views on that is like a majority view or a minority view, but I kind of secretly hope that they keep like the 2 builders kit, even if they do discontinue the RTRs or they end up, basically putting a kind of dumbed down 3 chassis underneath all the current RTR bodies. I mean, they could kind of go either direction with that. They could update the line or they could just leave what they have, and just roll with it. I kind of hope they do that because I feel like there might be a good majority of people that do like the minimalist type builds so that they can more easily turn it into whatever they want,
Well, I was going to say 2 things. One, and this is kind of piggybacking off of what you're saying. One, I know it's not going to be long before somebody offers a 3D printed skid plate for the SCX-10 to throw like the original AX style transmission underneath it. And I always refer to the AX style because that's the 3-gear. That's always been what they've used throughout almost all their platforms. I know that it's not going to be long. Will you lose some of the features? Yes, you'll lose the forward motor mount. You will lose the ability to have a 2-speed because that transmission is so complex because well, when I say it's complex is basically that transmission is the key to almost all their features of that platform, if that makes sense. Of the drivetrain. So that transmission has the 2-speed built into it, like so the gears and all the shifter fork, that's all built into it. You have the option to put a spacer in there to lock it either in 1st gear or 2nd gear if you wanted to, realistically, and then put it together like I locked it in 1st gear. And then they have the ability, same thing in that same transmission, because that mates right to the more scale looking transfer case. And that gives you the ability to lock the dig out, so that way it's just got 4-wheel drive 24/7. And without that transmission, you're losing dig, 2-speed, and the forward motor mount all in one. Which to some people they may or may not care, but to others they might be like, "Well, I really want that." I do got to say, out of all my rigs, this has a definite, like, interesting feel, weight bias. It's kind of like it definitely is more, I'd want to say my rig's probably set up more like a 60-40, like, so it's a little heavier in the front, but the back still has some weight because the way they designed the battery tray option, you could either put the big battery tray on the one rock slider area, or you could put it across the back like I did, just where the chassis starts to dip back up. And I think that'll give you enough offset weight because you have your servo, your motor, everything forward and down low. Now you have a battery that probably weighs close to that back there, plus you have a transmission with a lot of metal gears, which are still kind of pushed forward and low. It gives it a nice low weight bias to it.
Yeah, that's, it's funny, the more trailing I do, because we've spent, obviously, if anybody follows us, we spend a lot of time out at the park now at Die Hard, and I really enjoy trailing. Like, I like crawling, like out just hitting rocks and stuff like that, but I really, really like those trail days that are just kind of, cruise along and walk some miles, get a little exercise. And I really appreciate a rig that has more of a 60-40-ish weight bias now, because I really do appreciate the fact of a truck that can go down things every bit as well as it can go up stuff. And that's kind of what I've been sort of building my rigs based on lately is, okay, can I take this and have fun on any surface with it, whether it's crawling or trailing, and have it kind of, be the best of both worlds. And that 60-40, I think, is probably kind of the golden ratio here with something like that. Like, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, I can't believe I've never asked this. At least I don't think I have. Do you add any weight when you build something?
It depends. I typically like downward weight, and I don't usually need a lot because typically the wheels that I run, like I run a lot of CNC custom wheels. They're made out of solid aluminum, so they're a little different than like if you actually were to take a CNC wheel and you were to weigh it next to like a Vanquish wheel, which is also made out of aluminum. It's the weight's shockingly different because the way Vanquish makes their wheel versus the way he makes his wheel. So you're getting more of like a traditional, like if anybody remembers the Axial 8-hole, or I think they call them the 8-shooter or 6-shooter beadlocks, where the wheel was the wheel, then you had your ring that you bolt on the back and then you bolt on the front.
Yeah.
That's the style that CNC does. So that whole center section now is aluminum. So it's got some hefty weight to it.
Yeah,
so
there's a lot of mass there then. I didn't realize he built them that way. I just assumed it was basically a 2-piece wheel with the ring in the center.
No, it's no, yeah, it's like a 3. I guess you could. It's really a 1. Like the wheel's just it's the wheel, and then you just put the rings on. But because that center section is so massive, you got a lot of weight to it. Whereas like Vanquish, really, you just get the face of the wheel. Everything else is kind of like hollowed out. And then it just clamps around that little ring, and so it's all really lightweight. Yeah, there is weight there, but it's nowhere near like a solid chunk of aluminum.
Right.
So
yeah, I had no idea. That's interesting.
Yeah, so typically I like a little weight down low just because I like to keep the tires planted, because like I noticed a big difference, like, and this is just from like what I've seen. Take when I had my Wraith 1.9 bone stock at Axialfest. I mean, I did nothing to it other than that frame stiffener, threw in a Holmes Hobby, I think it was a 20-turn Crawlmaster, and I threw in an MKS servo. That thing, the tipping point was like right there every time you were going over something, because that had a lot of upward weight with that cage, and you just have these plastic wheels that it just wanted to tip right over.
Right.
That same rig with some CNC wheels on it, that thing stayed planted a lot longer. So to me, that's always just kind of shown, if you can get downward weight that can hold you planted on the ground, you have a better chance of watching what that rollover point is.
Right. Yeah,
So
see, I've just been adding beef patties to everything I have, and that's it. Like, I stopped doing stick-on weights on the beadlock ring inside, the internal ring. I quit doing that. No, brass C-hubs or knuckles or anything like that. Now I throw beef patties on everything and call it a day.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I kind of did that with a couple other rigs. I didn't use beef patties. I actually used Team K&K, their brass wheel hexes.
That's something I've never tried.
Yeah, I've done that too, because it gives you just enough. For some rigs, like I needed like a little bit more without going overboard, and that was like just enough.
I feel like that's the perfect amount if you're going to add some like brass rotating mass. I think hexes are probably just enough. I think that like when I used to put those on my HB cars, and that to me was better than bolt-on weights for sure. I liked that a lot because then it wasn't too much, but it gave you just enough to make it feel a little bit more planted in unpredictable conditions.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, folks, you heard that right. We actually add weight to race cars sometimes.
Well, within reason.
Even rotating weight.
Within reason. Only, honestly, I mean, these days, honestly, I would only put rotating mass on a race car, but that's a whole other conversation.
No, I was just kind of making light of the current situation.
Oh, yeah.
That whole debate being fired back up again lately. No, I was just curious because I don't think I had ever asked you that, Adam, if you did, stick on weights or what you typically do. I didn't realize those wheels were made that way. I can't believe I've never even so much as seen a picture of the backside of one of those wheels even. Like
Yeah,
I had no idea.
yeah, I can send it to you. I mean, the cool thing is it's based around something that's readily available. Like it's kind of like taking three styles of wheels and putting it together. It's like you're taking the traditional inner outer beadlock style ring wheel, and you're also applying, like with Vanquish, where you have to actually add a hub, so you can actually dictate the offset based on, do you want the 225, do you want the 350, do you want a 400, do you want to run a big old 800 and have the thing sticking way outside your wheel. I mean, or body, it's up to you. I mean, that's the kind of cool thing about it. Whereas like a lot of the plastic ones, they're pretty much set, and the only way to get any kind of offset is you go with like a bigger like Team K hex, where they have them in like the different widths, or you get like one of those God, who made them? I can't even think right now, but they used to have those offsets, and they had a blue and a red one, and used a barrel nut to hold it together. I forget who makes it.
This must have been before my time.
I have some still left over because there was a couple rigs that I built where the wheels were such a positive offset. I needed those to clear the knuckles, but I can't remember who makes it with the barrel nut.
It would be really nice to have a little more control over offset. I know, like, I really, really like the way my Bronco drives, that Shelby one. Travis and I both drove it this past weekend out at Die Hard. It drives really good. The wheels on it aren't a SLW style, and so they do stick out a little bit, and there's not much I can do about that, unfortunately, the way that they're made. I could either go where they're at now or wider, but I can't really go the other way. I do really like the fact that SLWs are kind of becoming industry standard almost now. Like even Element stuff works with SLW hubs, like their plastic RTR wheels. They're even in SLW style. So I think that's I don't know. Honestly, like I would like to see everybody just go to that. I mean, certain wheels obviously aren't going to cater to it, certain designs, but if you can and you can make it work, I feel like that's really the way to go, because you're doing, even if you don't make the SLW hubs, it's still a great feature that you're offering to the customer when you're trying to sell them on your product,
Exactly.
Which the CNC ones, they're all SLW, aren't they?
Yes, they're all SLW style. So you basically can use any kind of Vanquish, offset, and you can go from there and dial it in.
How many screws are on the inside ring on the back side of the wheel?
He typically does the standard, I want to say it's 6.
Oh, okay. So it's not 300 screws like the other
It's
ones.
not the front where you got like 18 or something like that.
Yeah, my SSD ones are 20, and I just replaced all of the kind of goldish looking hardware that looks like grade 8 bolts with black hardware. Oh my God, was that a tedious project? Like, that was an entire evening just switching out the scale hardware on those things. So I kind of feel people's pain when they got to take both rings off to try and swap your tires out.
Yeah, well, see, that's where I did kind of like, for instance, who makes them? Well, I know other than Vanquish, I think Locked Up has some nice wheels where they actually kind of like did another version of like what I call a hybrid. So they have 18 holes like that you actually have to put a screw in, but the rings that they sell are actually threaded. So you put, which is a pain in the butt, you put all the little 1mm screws all the way in, and there's actually 6 that are through hole, and you actually get the same scale hardware, but they're actually longer, so they go into the wheel, and those 6 are the only ones that actually clamp the wheel or the ring to the wheel.
Really? I didn't know that either. That is super smart, actually.
So you're still using the 6 design to hold it, but so if you ever wanted to take them off, it just takes 6 screws and they're off. Whereas
Dude, that's pretty rad.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, when I decided to take those wide Nitto trail grapplers off the SCX 10.3 and put the original ones on there, I was like, oh, I'm not looking forward to this because I gotta take like 100 screws apart just to change these wheels.
No kidding.
And I was like, after I just put them all together.
And for those of you that don't know, Locked Up RC is a Canadian company, I believe, and they have some really nice looking wheels. So that's another, you don't hear about them as much as you probably should. Like, I kind of feel like they don't get the credit they deserve because they have some really sharp looking designs.
Well, I think they actually get I guess what they're known for is their scale hardware. They have a lot of scale hardware, and some of that stuff you can actually use, and it changes the entire look of what you already have. So like, for instance, I just acquired a set of Vanquish Method wheels, and the previous owner had put scale hardware from Locked Up in the front ring, and it changes the look and like the whole entire look of that wheel.
Oh, yeah, like that scale hardware, some sort of a scale hub, and just now you're starting to find them a little bit easier, but the acorn style bolts for the lugs, you know, the 6 lugs, that's actually like those 3 things is, like you said, just totally will change the way a wheel will look. It takes it from, yeah, that almost looks real to, damn, that looks real.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what really like blows my mind is like you could get some of that stuff and like, I don't know, and then I become a creature of habit. So for instance, my guilty thing now is ever since I switched over to the scale lug nuts from Locked Up RC to hold my wheels on, like for all the SLWs, I cannot put the standard screws anymore. Like it just does not look real.
That's totally understandable.
And it's just like one of those things now. It's like so every time like I build a rig now, it's like I got to make sure. Like the last time I placed an order with Locked Up, I ordered I don't know how many of the scale of the lug nuts because I just use them so much now that I might as well because everything I use now gets them.
So you're ordering that direct, then you don't get it through a hobby shop or A-Main or anything?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. So if you guys are looking for that stuff that we're talking about, go to Locked Up RC's website. You're going to find a lot of really, really cool stuff there. They have some awesome replacement winch motors for the RC four-wheel drive Warn winch that is just insanely fast and strong, and it's like $12. It's super, super cheap, but they have a lot of really cool products. And like I said, I kind of feel like they don't get the credit they deserve because they have some really, really cool stuff. So be sure to check their stuff out.
Yeah, and you can get like, I know it gets pricey. I mean, realistically for what you're getting, it's kind of like you can kind of say, yeah, it's pricey. Like I was just looking at a set of black scale hardware for a set of wheels that I need to do for Michelle's 2017 Jeep that I have for her. I think it's like $8 for a bag of 25. So realistically, I need 4 bags to do the wheels.
Wow.
So because you use about 18 of them, so you're not gonna. I don't think you get you won't have quite enough left over if you just get 3 bags. So you're gonna need 4, and that'll leave you some some spares. The other thing I've always noticed with Locked Up, which maybe this is just me, but the tools that they sell you to, which is the other thing too. If you've never used Locked Up, you have to buy the hardware or the tools to install that hardware because your standard hex drivers and stuff do not install them. Like the lug nut one, actually that wrench works all right because it's kind of a bigger one, but like for their scale hardware, I've had a really hard time with the tool they sell. I actually went to my local hobby shop and I asked them if they had a hex driver in metric and what size they carry, and they actually had a kit that went from like 2mm all the way up to like 9mm. It was pricey. It was like a $65 set, but that thing works way better than the one that Locked Up sells.
No kidding. Yeah, see, so I had ordered, and I'm not seeing them on A-Main right now, so they're possibly out of them, but A-Mains, where you can find the SSD ones, they're only 2 millimeters by 5 millimeters for their scale hardware, so depending on what wheel you have, they may not be deep enough. I've found certain wheels, the hole in the ring is not big enough to allow the special socket tool for the scale hardware to fit in it. So you're not guaranteed that they're going to fit. You're kind of taking a gamble. If you do have SSD wheels, obviously they are going to fit, but I had just went ahead and spent the $9 and you get 3 of their little socket tools, and your 2 mil driver goes in one end and the other end is open, so it's just kind of like an adapter basically. But taking those apart and swapping out all that hardware, that SSD tool fit so tight on the scale hardware. I didn't have a single, like not even close to having a rounded off head on any of the bolts that I either pulled or installed. So spend the $10, save yourself the frustration, because if you do break one or round it off, good luck trying to get that thing out of your wheel. You probably are just going to have to replace your wheel. But don't cut corners with that. I've seen people take a 3 mil screw and put a nut on it and use it as like a jam nut, and then use that to try and take them off, and that works okay, but the tolerances just aren't the same for the right tools. So suck it up and buy the right wrench for the scale hardware, and you won't be sorry, and you've just probably negated a lot of problems that you could potentially have.
Oh yeah. So, but otherwise, that's a nice, easy way to change the appearance of almost anything.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've used the scale hardware, even like putting on skid plates and bumpers and stuff. I mean, like any chance I get to use scale hardware on something now, I do. But I do kind of feel like I'm half-assing it because I don't have the acorn nuts yet. So I am gonna have to do that because, like you said, that just kind of elevates your whole wheel and tire game. And a good looking set of wheels on your rig that are super scale like that, I mean, that can make or break your build basically, with how it looks.
Oh, easily.
If you're going super scale nerd on it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's see. What time frame are we at right now? Our time stamp?
I think we're right at an hour and a half right now.
Yeah, probably close to hour, half hour 40.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, we can call it if you guys want.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to circle back to, because I was kind of glad that you brought it up, or I should say that a team associated driver brought it up before I did, because I know it probably sounds like a lot of complaining, but and maybe this could be a whole different topic for another conversation. I don't understand why it seems like since the release of Element as a brand, why, like, you notice how like Red Cat releases something, a lot of people make fun of it, they pick it apart. Axial releases something, they pick it apart. Element releases something and it's really, you see a lot of praise versus the picking apart, where, like I said, there's some, like, if you really wanted to put like the comparisons of how people seem to like, compare, or I guess you could say gripe on these brands, they don't use some of the tactics for certain ones. So it's like, at what point are you just doing it must be like a fanboy kind of thing over an actual, critique?
I see some critiquing, but most of what I see isn't really valid. Like early on, I guess I was talking to Schultz about this today. Early on, they did have some issues, I guess, with some of their rod ends. But me personally, I haven't. I mean, I've had 4 Elements now over the course of a year, and I have yet to break a single item on them. So some of the things these guys complain about, I don't understand, and I don't know why or how they're having those problems. And I was asking John about it because it's hard to address it, because if I speak up and say, well, I haven't had any issues, it's like that doesn't necessarily look good. I mean, obviously I'm saying it meaning it as praise, but it's it could be construed as, well, you're doing it wrong, or whatever, and it looks like you're kind of like placing the blame back on that person for the problem that they had. But and this isn't me saying this as an associated guy or anything, but dude, honestly, it's a solid truck, and it's really hard to fault the thing. It really, really is. My only complaint I've ever had with their rigs has been the original plastic that they were using for their shock towers. The panhard mount flexes quite a bit. I switched to their hard plastic tower, and didn't have that issue. From this current release forward now, all of their cars that they're going to release from this point on will have hard plastic standard, and they have a newer, harder plastic compound, so they immediately addressed that issue. But honestly, dude, like, it's pretty hard to fault one of these rigs. Like, they're good, and they work really well, and they may not have all the bells and whistles, but there's also just not a lot of opportunity for anything to go wrong on them. And I know that sounds totally fanboyish, but really, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they're lucky, because the internet can be a pretty brutal place as far as people criticizing products. And, you're right. Like, you see it with Axial. Especially, you always have the guys going, oh, great, another Jeep, but even with Element not having licensed bodies, I still don't, it's a rare instance that I even see someone complain about the bodies that come on them. Like, it's weird. It is. I feel like it is kind of an anomaly in the hobby, because you're right. You don't see that.
I don't understand the stigma behind Axial. I don't understand why they have such consistent negative feedback on releases. Again, this is silent majority though, but for some reason, the people who aren't, like, people are super quick to judge Axial releases. I don't know if it's people don't gripe on Element as much because it is something new and something fresh. Red Cat, I understand completely, because they made toy grade stuff for a very long time. So no matter how good their stuff is now, they are tasked with breaking that stigma, and that is a very hard thing to do. So there are going to be people that are never going to give Red Cat a chance, because just like Traxxas in a lot of ways, because it's Red Cat, it's Traxxas, that sort of same scenario. I don't understand what it is about Axial that makes people do that. I really don't get it. I think for a long time it was also born out of frustration, though, because people were buying. I mean, Axial was essentially the car to buy. And like, if you were going to get a scaler and you were serious, like, the Axial was a no-brainer choice. And so I think a lot of it stems from that some people were unhappy with the releases that Axial was coming out with, because there really weren't alternatives. So now that we have a lot more options, just in maybe 3 years since Axial really was like that big authority, where they kind of, to me, like, kind of at that peak. Now we have a little bit more choices. I mean, I think you see a lot more negative feedback on the Element after it's bought, because people look at things like, like they did have a rod end issue, and that is a running change that's been fixed. Despite the reasons, I understand why they come with it, but plastic balls still do suck. So, I mean, it's one of those things that I understand it from that side, but I think maybe people are pleased to have the variety now. I think that's a big piece of it.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
I think, if you want my opinion, I think you guys already kind of brushed on it. It has to do with they're so new in the game, I guess you could say, even though they're not, like, they are, but they aren't, I think that's a lot of the reason why it's the new hot and upcoming thing.
Element is capturing the wow factor.
Exactly, and it's kind of like what you were saying about Axial when Axial was on top. It was that so many people, I guess, what's the word you were like, it was the authority, so people were kind of like overlooking some of the flaws to justify why it was still on top, whereas now you got something that's new, so they're kind of like, well, it's new and it's hot, so I'm going to look over the fact that this is an issue because I like the fact that it's newer and it's the new craze right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that Axial basically for many, many years, and I think Trav really hit the nail on the head. Axial for many, many years was, for the most part, your only choice, and so I get that when your only choice is what they're releasing, you're opening yourself up to more criticism because you don't have a lot of options. The Everything is going to have its hits and misses. It's just, it does it really matter to you or not? Like for me, like when I see people complain about the rod ends or even the element having plastic balls, none of my cars, they all still have plastic balls on them, and none of them are blown out yet. Like they're all still as tight as the day that I got them. So I mean, I kind of expected that though with Associated, because they do, with their racing background, they have really good materials that they use. Their plastic formula is awesome. But, it's now you've got all these choices versus just one manufacturer. And I think to kind of try and wrap this up and circle back to what we were talking about, like, I guess basically kind of we got a topic for the show was kind of, what to buy is sort of what the direction that we ended up going, because we're talking about, what kind of a choice would you make as a consumer between the 3 and the new Element release. The Traxxas, I know you've heard us say negative things about, not negative, but I mean somewhat critical of not using all their features. I will say this about Traxxas is that it's a very durable rig. I didn't have any parts failures or anything like that on it. Same with the Element, no parts failures. Red Cat, I know a lot of guys that are very, very happy with their Red Cat Gen 8 and have no complaints with the thing. Once in a while you hear somebody say something about breaking a portal gear or something, but it's been a long time since I've heard that being an issue. I think kind of in closing, like really looking at this from a non-biased standpoint, there is a lot of awesome choices that you can make right now when you're shopping for a rig. And I can truly, honestly tell you that whatever you do decide to buy as a customer getting into the hobby or looking to add to your collection, I don't think you're going to be disappointed with anything that's currently offered by any manufacturer. They're all really, really good. All of this competition now with, you've got several brands now competing for market share versus it just being Axial before, for the most part. You've got a lot of solid choices, and no matter what you choose, you're not going to be disappointed. You're going to enjoy it, and it's going to work really well. So again, this is like a great time to be involved in this hobby, and there's so many choices, and the competition has bred better and better products as a result of it. Everybody continues to elevate their game to keep up with the competition, as Axial had done with the SAX-10 III. Now it is, just about completely comparable to the TRX-4 for the most part, with the exception of the locking diffs, which I don't think many people use that anyways. So whatever you guys decide to spend your hard-earned money on, feel good about your purchase. You're not going to get a dud. They're all pretty awesome.
Exactly. I think that's an awesome spot to end it.
Agreed.
High note.
Absolutely.
Cool. Okay.
Until next time, guys.
We will see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.